Hello everyone and welcome back to another book review. Today I am going to be reviewing volume 3 in the series I have been reading for a while, Correspondence from the End of the Universe, and this story and art is by Minota. So this is what the cover of the series looks like. I have been reading it for a while, and at the beginning of this book review I will do a quick recap of the first two volumes, but if you're looking for a more thorough review of the first two volumes, I have a review of volume 1 and volume 2 on my channel. Both are under 10 minutes, so they're pretty quickly if you just want to get a recap of the series thus far. Then we're going to be discussing what happened in volume 3, and then my thoughts on both the series thus far and things that I like in volume 3 in particular, because I am enjoying the series. I think it's fun and I'm having a great time reading it. So let's dive into volume 3 of Correspondence from the End of the Universe. The main character in this series is this individual right here called Marco. He is a Russian student, or rather he just graduated college, so he's not a student any longer, who was sucked into this mandatory position at the end of the universe. So Earth in this fantastical setting of Correspondence from the End of the Universe is a closed world, meaning that it doesn't have contact with alien species and races and civilizations. But those things do exist, Earth just isn't aware of it. So it's Earth similar to the Earth that we have today. But the story presumes that there are alien civilizations, and actually management of the universe is handled by a corporation-like entity. There's different offices, and these offices need to be filled with recruits who do work almost like mandatory military service or jury duty, something like that, where there's mandated tasks that people get selected to perform. And these are just pulled from a wide variety of species in the galaxy, whether or not the planet is open or closed. So whether or not the planet or the representative from a planet knows about the end of the universe or not, the people are selected. So Marco is one of those people who, unbeknownst to him, gets randomly selected, and he gets sucked from his world, from university or the end of university, and is now having to perform tasks to keep the good management of the universe under control. In particular, his department is responsible for making new worlds, so they have to build planets, and it's kind of a tricky task. And Marco is quite unhappy with the overall scenario. He has a 10-year term he has to serve, which means when he goes back home, people like his lover, who he was expected to travel the world with, probably are not going to remember him. I don't know about you, but if someone you were dating just disappeared for 10 years, you would probably assume they had ghosted you and moved on with your life. So Marco understands that he's kind of locked in this scenario, but he's attempted to escape at this point and can't. So he's kind of just accepted where he is. I think he's not totally given up on escaping, but he's just going through life with his coworkers, both kind of exploring the world around him, but also still thinking about the fact that this 10-year sentence truly is a sentence and doesn't really seem fair. I will admit the premise is a little bit fantastical, so we do have that going on, but you just have to suspend disbelief a little bit. Now, there is this other plot going on in which Marco doesn't want to return to Earth quite yet because his heart has been stolen. So in your terms of service, you actually cannot die. If you die, you get revived. So it is a little bit of a preventative. But if something serious happens to your body and you don't repair that before your terms of service is up, then you will actually wind up dying when you go back home. So Marco can function just fine right now without his heart, which was stolen by this magical interdimensional fish sort of being. But if his 10-year term were to expire without him retrieving the heart, which is currently inside a fish floating through somewhere in space, then he will die. So he doesn't quite want to go back yet because he needs to retrieve his heart. This heart is an overarching point. It's one of those things that if you see one of those like time management charts, this would fall as urgent but not important. So it is urgent in the sense that it eventually needs to be done. Or sorry, it's important but not urgent. So it's important in the fact that it needs to get done, but it's not urgent, it just needs to be retrieved sometime over the next 10 years. I think the author's using this as like an overarching story point. But we do have the day-to-day life in the service of the universe that Marco is having to deal with. And this story there's three main things I'm going to talk about that happen in this entry of the series, and that is kind of the day-to-day that's going on in the background of him trying to figure out where this fish is or this big snake thing is that has his heart. The first part of the story is probably the most interesting, and we are introduced to a character at the very end of volume 2 that comes up again in volume 3 called Gackle. I'm not sure exactly how to say it. He is a cannibalistic monster who we find out has kidnapped Marco and actually cannibalized him, except Marco is indestructible, so he just reconstitutes and reforms after this. Although there is a little bit of a question here on why his heart can't just reform, but his whole body can reform. I think that was just kind of like a plot hole that the author skipped over. But Gakul is definitely a dangerous character. He's currently teamed up with his like girlfriend or partner of sorts, and we find out that these are beings that were created by a vengeful employee of the same organization that Marco's currently working for. They're quite dangerous and they do prey on individuals. The only reason Marco escaped is because of this regenerative ability, which again isn't fully explained why his whole body could recover after being cannibalized, but his heart could not. The cannibalization does occur off screen, by the way, so you don't have to worry about that, but it's very clear that Gakul is a dangerous character and he is hunted by galactic law enforcement due to the dangerous nature of what he does. We do have that whole story that kind of concludes and takes place at the beginning, and that's kind of one of the areas that I'm going to talk about in my overview, how I feel about that. There's some other things that are lighter that happen throughout this volume. The team of employees have taken on a little creature called like Mau or something. It's this little green boy back here on the back who was abandoned by his group when there was a interaction between the spaceship that was carrying people like him, or this little guy, and the employees. So there was an interaction and this individual was left behind, and he's like a kid, so he's now in their care. I don't know if it's a he or a she. This little creature is in their care and needs to go to kindergarten, so the employees are now also doing childcare duties on top of their day-to-day tasks. So the individual, this little Mao individual, goes to kindergarten, and finding a good kindergarten and getting him ready to go to kindergarten is a whole plot, which is obviously very tonally different from facing a cannibalistic monster. And there's also this vacation aspect where the director goes on vacation and some individuals go and spend a day with him on this beach, and we learn a little bit more about the director's backstory and all of these individuals' backstories as they just go through like the day-to-day slice of life of vacation, as well as a few smaller other scenes throughout the book as well. Those are the two. We also see the employees at work at various stages, but those three things are kind of the big story beats that I wanted to touch on in this volume. So at the beginning we do have, of course, all the story or the chapter names that are going to be occurring here, the characters, and a summary thus far, which I really like when a manga has this in the form so we can see all the characters we're working with and the summary of what's happened thus far. So volume 3 overall, I definitely think that I like that the author is interweaving some of these fun slice of life events with also these more dangerous elements, showing that not everything in the universe is just happy and fun and an adventure. The Gakul is definitely shown as quite a dangerous and messed up creature. Like there's clearly an element of danger with him, and that not everyone who encounters this individual lives. It's shown as a little darker. The series is aimed at teens, and I do think that's appropriate. The slice of life is definitely fun, and I think if the author had just maintained that slice of life fun, it could definitely be maybe an adventure that would be appropriate for younger children. But due to these elements, like in volume 2, there was a death scene that was quite clearly shown on screen. So I think because of these darker elements, the series is definitely, I would personally say, probably like teens on up. If you do want to buy this for a kid in your life, just make sure you're comfortable with all the content within it. But because of these elements, we do see that there are dark edges to the universe. Now, of course, the main character does have a little bit of a, I don't know if you call it plot armor, this regenerative ability, this protective benefit of being an employee, and there's other benefits with their body that we find out throughout this story of being an employee that again isn't quite clear then how the heart can be stolen if the body can be regenerated, but I'm letting that be. So while it's mostly light, I think the author is mixing in these darker elements to show that everything is not perfect in this world and not everything is just fantastical and fun in the universe. So again, despite the cute cover, just be wary of giving this to really small children because there are those darker elements, but I do like it. Another minor complaint I have about the series thus far is that all non-villainous characters seem willing to help in a very friendly and social way. For example, the team of employees is trying to track down this snake dragon creature monster thing that took Marco's heart, and everyone seems kind of willing to pitch in and help. And I feel like maybe these alien species are just more or less greedy than us, but I feel like in real life, most people need a little bit of personal incentive to help other people. Not always. There are definitely times where people act in an unselfish manner or a not selfish manner, but I feel like the fact that every non-villain character is quite willing to help our protagonist seems a little bit like, okay, that's a little bit convenient for everything that is going on. But the way I'm approaching this series is not like serious literature or harsh criticism to let's dig into how the plot works. This is very much escapism. I mean, Marco, it's never really explained how Marco just gets into this world, except for like the selection for employment. And it's just kind of like a fantastic rendering of this world that Marco has been sucked into. And you can tell the author really likes building these alien species and worlds and cultures and ideas. The author spends a lot of time on those details, and those are just fun to read. It's almost like a thought experiment in the sense of how would maybe people approach the concept of raising children in a world where there is no like marriage pairings, or what would different wedding dresses look like in a wide variety of cultures, or how would cuisine look on a planet that consumes rocks. All sorts of just weird thought experiment questions that the author's exploring in this light, fun, fantastical universe that just has enough of a dark edge to make it not completely unattractive to an adult reader who doesn't want to just read rainbow and sunshine all day long in a manga series. So I would not consider this serious highbrow literature by any stretch of the imagination, but I don't think everything you read has to be. I think it's okay to just read something as like a light, fun summer read, and that's how I'm approaching the series. So I am aware of the flaws of the series, but I like it, and I really, really like the work the author puts into building these different societies and these different worlds, and the care that the author takes to the detail of the world, even if sometimes that care isn't mimicked in the plot of the story. I'm okay with it just due to the nature of the series overall. It is a fantastical series, again, slightly unbelievable, maybe some holes in plot. We'll see if those get patched up, but overall, I'm having a fun time reading it. And if you're looking for a light, fun summer manga read, maybe check out Correspondence from the End of the Universe. I've been loving it, and I think you may enjoy it as well. If you have read this series, please let me know what you think about it. Put that in the comment section down below. I love to receive your comments. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.